If you've ever tried to travel while homeschooling and thought, why does this feel so much harder than everyone makes it look? You're not imagining it. And you're not alone. I've lived the reality of traveling while homeschooling, not just the pretty photos, but the actual day to day of it. And I am still a project manager, which means my brain is constantly running in the background asking, where are the risks? Where could this go sideways? And how do we make this feel as smooth and calm as possible? The 7 hard truths I'm sharing today don't just come from my story. They come from the same patterns I keep seeing in moms I work with and walk beside. Women who are incredibly smart, deeply loved, and so caught up in the wanderlust and the promise of freedom that no one ever sat them down and said, hey, here's the fine print. So, in this episode, we're going to walk through 7 of those hard truths about traveling while homeschooling. And for each one, I'll offer gentle, practical ways to wrap more time, space, calm, and of course, ease around it. Think of it as adding emotional luxury back into a lifestyle that can quietly drain you if you're not careful. This isn't just my story, it's ours. And a lot of travel content you see online is coming from families who travel during school breaks. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a very different rhythm. It's like watching Vacation Mode on loop. It's not the quieter, longer game of making travel part of your child's actual education. So, if you've ever looked at those endless reels of perfect beach days and thought, wow, my life doesn't look like that, it might be because you're not trying to stretch a long weekend. You're trying to build a life. Around here, we see travel as lived education. We talk about emotional luxury, right? We talk about time, space, calm, ease, not just 5-star aesthetics, but the luxury of not rushing your child through every experience, the luxury of slow mornings, deep conversations, and a child who has time to actually notice things. So, let's talk about the hard bits that usually get edited out and the gentle, luxurious ways to soften them. Truth 1, you're not on vacation. You're actually homeschooling in a moving house. One of the biggest misunderstandings I see is this. People assume that if you're traveling while homeschooling, you're basically on a permanent vacation with a side of workbooks. I'll be sitting somewhere, maybe in an airport lounge or a pretty hotel lobby, my daughter quietly working through something, and someone will say, wow, that must be nice. You're always on vacation. And internally, I'm thinking, if only you could see my planning spreadsheet. The truth is, you're not on vacation. You've just moved your home base. You still have to think about reading, math, writing, character, personality, rest. It's just happening in different time zones and different chairs. What helps is creating that feeling of home within the movement. For us, that might look like having a set time almost every day where we go, and this is our school time. It might be in the same sunny corner of a hotel lounge with the same order, her hot chocolate or her strawberry milk, my tea, the same notebook, the same routine, but the wallpaper changes. That little ritual doesn't. That is a kind of luxury. Not a new handbag, but the luxury of rhythm. The luxury of your child knowing this is when we focus and later we'll explore. Even when we're at home, we like to stay very focused and structured in our first half of the day, the morning, and the afternoon can be reserved for doing something else. Whether we teach the second half of our curriculum in Spanish, or if we go to a museum, we go out into the park or something different. So that for us is a normal cadence. And because my definition of luxury includes ease, if you're in a season where it's available to you, this might be where you choose a hotel with a lounge or a business center instead of the absolute cost effective option, simply because it gives you a quiet, consistent place to do school. Or you upgrade to a slightly larger room or an apartment style stay. So there's a real table and not just a bed. You can also use luxury tools to make those school anchors easier. Airport lounges on long layovers, private transfers instead of juggling 3 buses and trains with luggage, or even pre-booking breakfast at the hotel so your mornings start calmly instead of with a scavenger hunt for food. Of course, none of this is required, but these little upgrades can buy you back energy and attention for your child. Truth two, you'll feel like you're failing at both travel and school. This one shows up in my DMs all the time. Moms will say, when we're out exploring, I feel guilty we're not doing enough formal school. When we sit down to do school, I feel guilty we're not seeing enough of where we are. So, you end up most days feeling like you've done neither properly. You didn't check off all the museum stops on your list, and you didn't finish the math lesson either. What I've seen, both in my own life and with other moms, is that this is often a planning problem, not a character problem. Ease, luxury here looks like naming your season and choosing a primary focus. For example, this month is a travel-heavy month. Reading and language stay non-negotiable, but science and history will mostly be lived experiences. Or you can try the opposite. This is a school-heavy month. We're in one place longer, and we're catching up on the foundations, so we'll explore less, and that's okay too. You are allowed to design your rhythm on purpose, and that's not a failure. That's stewardship. Give yourself the luxury of enough. You can pick a number of anchors, maybe one subject and one outing that really matter this week, and let the rest be bonus, not proof you're behind. Truth 3. Emotional overload is real for you and your child. Travel adds sensory input. New beds, new smells, new food, new people, new rules. That's exciting and exhausting at the same time. Your nervous system is tracking, right? Passports, tickets, safety, money, behavior, directions, all while trying to be present and grateful. Your child's nervous system is tracking. I don't know this playground. This food is different. These kids don't speak my language. This bed feels weird. Where's my favorite stuffy? So, meltdowns, tears, or quiet shutting down are not proof that travel isn't working. They're actually proof that everyone is human. Ease, luxury here might look like building in recovery days, the way you'd build in excursions. One full day with no big plans, where the success metric is we rested, we reset. It might mean flying in a day earlier, which is one of my preferences, maybe before a big tour or a cruise, so your child isn't starting the fun part already maxed out. It can also look like sensory anchors, the same bedtime story, the same playlist for quiet time, the same small stuffed animal in every new bed. That is also something that we really like. My daughter has her favorite stuffies, and even though sometimes they're in rotation, when we travel, there's definitely one stuffy that gets to experience the world with us. Shout out to Simba. For you, it might be as simple as deciding, I will not schedule calls on travel days, or I will pay a little more for the flight that doesn't leave at 5 a.m. because rested me is a better teacher and a kinder mom. That is emotional luxury. Buying back nervous system calm where you can. Truth 4. Social life changes, and that's not always bad. One of the loudest fears I hear, just as a homeschooling mom in general, is, but what about socialization? And often, what people really mean is, what about constant access to same age peers in a traditional classroom setting? Now, I know I don't need to make an argument on why homeschooling and the idea of socialization or the lack thereof while being homeschooled is a myth. I do want to address the idea of socialization while traveling with homeschoolers. So, when you travel while homeschooling, your child's social world does change. There may be fewer daily peers and more multi generational interactions. For me, my daughter already experiences those multi generational interactions as she deals with her homeschool friends that may be different ages as she is, as well as her constant, interaction and relationship with her aunts and her grandmother and her great aunt and her extended family. In a traveling space, that can look like talking with the host at your guest house, or the couple on the train, or the shopkeeper teaching them a new word, the cousins you visit once a year but stay with for a week. I'm not going to pretend that this trade off is always easy. There can be moments of loneliness for you or your child. I think it depends on the individual. But there is also a quiet gift here. Children who are comfortable speaking to adults, who sit at a table and notice the world, who see themselves as part of a wider human community, not just a classroom. Ease luxury might look like intentionally weaving in peer time instead of assuming it will appear, booking a kid's activity at a hotel, choosing a homestay or co-living space with other families, or timing your trips so you overlap with friends. It might mean online clubs or classes that travel with you, which I think is a really great idea. So your child sees the same faces each week, even if the background changes or the time zone. And for you, it might look like mom friend voice notes, a group chat of women doing something similar, so you're not carrying the I chose this different path feeling alone. For me, to be honest, friends are not a priority, although I do love everyone. But connecting with my family is very important. And I do have a routine when I'm home. I also maintain when I'm away. So for my daughter, every night she speaks to my aunt, who is her great aunt, and she talks about her day. She talks about different things that she's learned. And we keep this tradition no matter where we are in the world, no matter what time zones that we're in. And that helps bring stability for my daughter while we travel. Truth 5. The mental load is heavy, even in beautiful places. The logistics don't disappear just because the view is pretty, right? You're thinking about visas, insurance, schedules, school plans, meals, laundry, safety, currency, transport, and your child's emotional world all at once. And I'm sure there's something that I left out. Sometimes the mental load of travel and school is heavier than staying home. Ease luxury here is about offloading where you can. That might mean using a travel agent or booking packages that bundle transfers and tickets so you're not the one piecing everything together at midnight. And if you need a friend to bounce ideas off of and really plan this out, you always have me. Now, back to ease luxury. It might mean using grocery delivery instead of hunting down a supermarket in a new city every time. I've noticed that there are places that use apps similar to Instacart where you can get groceries delivered. And I think that that can be very convenient. You can also project manage your own brain, one central planning hub, a simple weekly check in with yourself, and a short daily list instead of a never ending scroll of tasks. None of this means you're weak. It means you're human and you're carrying a lot. Truth 6. You can't see and do it all. Something has to give. Now, I know hearing that never sounds good, but I'm your friend, right? And I'm trying to tell you the truth. When you mix travel and homeschooling, you're juggling two things that both feel important. You're seeing the world and giving them, your children, a solid education. It is impossible, though, to do every excursion, every curriculum activity, every local event, every possible experience. There will be museums you skip, lessons you shorten, and days where the big cultural moment is actually your child noticing how the bakery lady greets everyone by name. Ease luxury looks like choosing depth over volume, one thoughtful museum visit instead of four rushed ones. One local dish you really learn to order and enjoy instead of checking off every restaurant. In school, it might mean focusing on strong reading and thinking skills and letting the location do some of the heavy lifting for history and geography. You are allowed to say this is enough. Truth 7. It can be beautiful and lonely at the same time. Now, I want to be honest about this. There can be moments of deep beauty and moments of real loneliness living this way. You might be watching your child play in a fjord in Norway or learn a new phrase in a market and think, this is exactly why we're doing this. And then later that night, you might wish there was another mom who understood both the gift and the weight of what you're carrying. Both can be true, beautiful, and lonely. Ease luxury here might be building tiny rituals of connection. I mentioned the call that my daughter usually has with my aunt every night. For you, that can be weekly calls with grandparents, photos sent to a small circle of friends, or even a travel journal you and your child keep together. I also like the travel journal. My daughter and I really enjoy reflecting on what we've seen, and I really appreciate her wanting to capture at least one experience of the day, even if that experience is meeting a new friend or learning a new phrase. It might be being honest with yourself about your own need for rudeness, if that's what you need, and giving yourself permission to have base seasons as well as travel seasons. You are allowed to adjust the dial. More movement some years or some months, more rootedness in others. It's completely up to you. So, those are the 7 hard truths. Not to scare you off, but to steady you. To say you're not the only one thinking these things. You're not asking for too much when you want travel that is both educational and emotionally gentle. If you're listening and you feel yourself exhale a little, you're probably my kind of mom, the one who wants a beautiful life, but also a livable one. None of these truths mean you're doing it wrong. They simply name the weight you've been carrying. So you can stop pretending it's supposed to feel light all the time and start designing a version of travel and homeschool that actually fits your real child, your real nervous system, and your real season. I'll leave some information in the description about how we can stay connected as this online village grows. And if at some time you feel like you'd like support in curating a travel and homeschool season that feels cultural, educational, calm, and a little bit luxurious, I do quietly offer consultation calls as well. You can think of it as project managing your family's lived education. But for now, I'd love you to sit with this question. Which of these truths is already whispering in your ear? And what would it look like to add just a little more luxury in the form of time, space, and ease around that one area? Pause there and breathe. And remember, you're allowed to design this on purpose, and you don't have to do it all alone. We'll keep unpacking this together, one gentle, honest conversation at a time. Until next time.